this session is about writing the introduction to the paper. Generally when you read a paper, this is not the first thing you read. After reading the title, people generally go to the conclusions. Once you have seen the conclusions, then you may come back and read the objectives. So it is not that you will read the title, then read the abstract, then the introduction, you usually don't read the paper like that. But this is an important part of the manuscript for the simple reason it puts the whole paper in context. So I'll just give you a few tips about how to write the introduction. Actually write an introduction so that you'll have some idea how to write. Secondly, you'll also have an idea if you are referring a paper or you are a reviewer for some journal, what to look for in an introduction. Right, so the introduction has two main parts. The first is Sir Bradford Hill's first question, that is, why the study? So the introduction has to answer this question, why the study, which means basically the justification. Why are we doing the study? So this will come in the introduction. The second thing which everyone looks for is what are the objectives, because only if the objectives are spelt out in the introduction, you will be able to see whether the conclusion matches with the objectives of the study. When you write a paper, it is all about putting things in context and having the whole flow throughout the paper. So unless the introduction gives you the objectives, you won't be able to say whether the conclusions match your objectives, and when the conclusions, if they don't match the objectives, you can go back and see whether the methods support the objectives. So the methods you select will have to be such that the objectives will be answered using the methods which you are selecting. So that's why a paper, even if you have different sections, there is a common thread running through all the sections of a paper. So the introduction basically has these two. The first is why the study, and the second part is the objectives of the study. Now under why the study, the first thing you will do is to outline the problem. What is the problem you are studying? You have to outline it. If you are not clear about the problem, then the readers also won't be clear. So this is the first thing which you do. You outline the problem, you state the problem, and the second part is you justify this. So these are the 2 points which you will give under this heading. Not heading, but this why the study remains in your mind, but you write only these 2 things. You outline the problem and then you justify the study, and then of course you will give the objectives. So are you clear about that? So introduction, it has only 3 things: outlining the problem, the justification, and the objectives. These are the only 3 things which you will write in an introduction. Now when I say outlining the problem, one is you will state what was the problem. Now if it is, let us say you are doing a study on diabetes mellitus, there is a tendency to give a whole lot: what is diabetes mellitus, when was it discovered, what is the global situation of diabetes mellitus, and you will be actually talking about diabetes mellitus in some small community maybe in India. So there is no need to state the problem in such a broad sense. You need to focus a little more. This of course I can say that it will come with practice, but it also comes by writing more and more. And the more you read, you will understand how readers are able to give very crisply, in 2 or 3 sentences they are able to state the problem. So that is the first thing. What was the problem? What has been done about it? What has been done about it means what have other researchers done about the problem. See, we like to say we are the first person doing something, but it is almost never like that, because we get an idea from someone else. So we need to say what has been done about it. We need to talk about what other workers have done about this problem. You need to arrange the facts in a temporal sequence so that it is easier to understand, and then you identify the lacunae in the work already done. So you can say that though people have done this, these are the things which remain to be done, and therefore we are planning a study to identify or rectify this problem. So this is what outlining the problem is. You state the problem, then you say what has been done about it. Talk about what work has already been done, arrange it in a temporal sequence, identify lacunae in work already done. If I am not clear, no, please interrupt. You just don't have to wait till I finish. Okay. So then how to start the introduction. Generally, it is good if you can summarize what is known about the topic separately. You may not put it into the introduction, but you summarize it in a small paragraph so that your thoughts are very clear. Sometimes you may think something, but when you write it, it does not come out the way you want it to sound. Okay? So, you summarize what is known about the topic, and then you can select the salient features and include it in your introduction. Give only salient features of recent concepts and studies. See, it is very nice if we can trace history, but it is not necessary. So, you give only the salient features of recent concepts and studies and give only strictly pertinent references. See, the problem with references in the introduction section is, if you are converting your dissertation or thesis into a paper, obviously you will have about 50 or 70 references. Now, the tendency is to put all the references which you have put in your review of literature in the introduction. That is not necessary. So, only strictly pertinent references need to be used, and then of course, you can use present and past verbs, it is both allowed now. And then how do you end the section? You end it by describing the objectives, that is what I told you. And sometimes if you want, you can give a outline of a research plan. For example, if you want to do a clinical trial, you might say we are wanting to do a double blind randomized controlled clinical trial or whatever it is. So, the section usually ends by stating the objectives and an outline of a research plan if you want to. You can provide a statement of the rationale for the study, but generally I will not put this as the last sentence, it will be just before the end. Okay? Right. Now that you know what to write, it is important to know what not to write. Any takes on this? What should not go into the introduction? Yes? Results. Results should not be there. Yes? Because there is a separate section for results. So, do not put your results in there. Anything else? Methodology need not be there unless you want to give an outline. Yeah, like I said, that is fine. Otherwise? Pardon? Yes, that is what. You do not need to write anything about the methods in detail in this introduction. What else do you think should not go into an introduction? Summary, yes, conclusions should not come, true. An exhaustive literature review. Just because you have done it for your dissertation or thesis, it does not mean it goes into the introduction. Data or conclusions, you already said about that. Referring only to your work. It is true, you may have done a lot of work in a particular area. That does not mean you quote or cite only your work, as though you are the only important person who has ever worked in the whole world on that area. Many people try to do this to improve the number of citations. So, if I am writing 5 papers, all my 5 papers will have all my 5 papers plus whatever I have published, whether they deserve a place in it or not. I mean, this is bad science. It is pure bad science, and it is very unethical also. When we refer, you must it must be representative of the work which is already being done, and cite what are important papers from whoever has done it, even if that person is your rival. See, not only in India, but even abroad, there are these rival groups. There are labs competing for patents, there are labs competing for to be the first to publish something. So, there is a lot of rivalry, but that does not mean that you publish only your work. Okay. Okay. Now, there is another talk on references, but I am just talking to you about the references in the introduction section, so that I do not have to come to this later on. Now, the references should support the statement of the problem, the previous work done on the topic, that is obvious, preferably in a chronological order. There is no need to start with references to mythology. I have a friend who is a medical gastroenterologist, and he says that almost all papers on jaundice, they will say that jaundice was first discovered in Egyptian mummies. Okay. So, these kind of things, it is not that you have to talk about mythology or say that in sleep medicine, the common thing is Kumbhakarna suffered from obstructive sleep apnea and something like that. So, you do not have to make these references to mythology. And if you are citing from another reference, that is, you do not have the original source, but you are citing from another reference, you say so. Because what happens is, sometimes people in the introduction, they will say that some method was first discovered in 1856 and they will quote Lancet 1856. I am sure nobody would have read the original article. So, if you have not read the original article, then how can you quote it? So, when you are citing something like that, you would have obviously read a review. Please cite the review. So, this is a basic dictum of referencing. I will refer to this when I am talking about the referencing, but this is one important thing. So, sometimes you want to talk about things which were discovered very early on and you may not have read the original article, does not matter. You would have read the review article, you cite that. So, that is being honest about the sources which you are referring to. So, that is about the introduction. Now, I am going to give you a small individual task. See, now you have, there is the first page will contains an introduction from a paper. Ravindran, can I have a copy please? This contains an introduction from a paper which was published in New England Journal of Medicine. So, I want you to take a pencil and do 3 things. You identify the 3 components of introduction. One is a statement of the problem, B justification, and 3 objectives. So, this is the introduction. This introduction is just 216 words. It is a full original paper. It is not even a brief report. It is only 216 words and I want you to identify which is the problem, how the authors have stated the problem, just underline which is the justification B and what are the objectives. You are given 5 minutes. Yes? Right, done. Okay. So, stating the problem from where to where? From here? Okay, see, first is stating the problem. So, here this is a paper where they have used 2 drugs and to test the survival in COPD. So, the problem, what do they want to say? They want to say that COPD is a problem, that it is a major cause of illness, death and use of health resources, etc. And they want to say what is the treatment of COPD, that it is not very effective. So, that is the problem, that is what they are stating. And if you see that the whole of the first paragraph states the problem, agreed? Yes. Right, by and large it states the problem, right. Second is the justification, why are we doing this study? And if you see that they say that there is some data to suggest that if you use inhaled corticosteroids may reduce the frequency of exacerbations, especially when combined with inhaled long acting beta agonists. So, that is one of the, they are stating the justification for the study. Okay. This is why, and they also go on to say that retrospective analysis suggests blah blah blah. So, that is stating the justification for the study. So, first is the problem, why are we studying it? Because there is no good treatment, but this seems to be useful, I mean seems to be effective. So, that is the justification, agreed? Now, if you do not agree with me, please tell, because this is where you need to know. And then the objectives, to test this hypothesis we undertook this torch trial where they combine this thing and they have over a 3-year period. So, here they have told, given in addition they have given the period, they have given the study design which I told you. So, here they have given you the objectives, is that clear? So, you can see in 216 words they have given you all the 3 components of an introduction, beautiful introduction to a double blind randomized controlled clinical trial. Nothing is excess, nothing is lacking, everything which they need to say has been said, right, agreed? Yeah, okay. Now, please take a look at task number 2. No, we will just go through it, you can do it as an overnight task because it is a bit long task. So, please look at task number 2. This is also an introduction which goes from page 1 to page 3. It is all of 748 words. Okay. Now, the title of this paper is Combined Administration of Selenium and Meso 2,3-dimer captosuccinic acid on arsenic mobilization and tissue oxidative stress in chronic arsenic exposed male rats, right. Now, it is obvious when you read the introduction, you know what the author has been trying to do. The author has been trying to convert a dissertation or thesis into a paper. It is very, very obvious, because there are about 43 references in the introduction. 43 references in the introduction, whereas the first paper has just 13. Okay. So, now you can do it as a task, overnight task. What I want you to do is, I want you to look at it again critically. But tell me, if you were a referee, what comments would you make on this introduction?
I will accept this as a full article.
Pardon?
Instead of a paper, I'll call it a research textbook.
Textbook, okay.
The first thing I think, ma'am, is they have the title says it's in rats, in animal model, and they have put the human data in the introduction, which they need not have put.
Yes. So, as a referee, see, if you were referring this paper, because in your E group I got this very interesting information. Someone said that I have some experience in peer review, though I have not yet written my first paper. So, I was very happy to note that people are interested in peer review. Some of you are obviously reviewed papers. So, I would like to know what your comments would be as a referee. So, this is too long for you to do it now. Please take it home and go through it. Give me your comments as a referee, and it should be in full sentences, no sour comments. It should be very scientifically stated comments on what. This is only the introduction. We don't know what all he has written. So, you look at the introduction and please give your comments. If you were a referee, what you would write. Is that okay? Right. Thank you very much.